the end here. We're not going to do any rumors this week. We're not going to do any let's discuss, and we're going to buzzsaw through events
It is.
because we got a ton of news.
Well, we
Is
have.
I
There's
was
only
gonna
one
say,
event, and it'll take
is
2 seconds to read.
What were you saying, Gary?
are we not doing rumors because Nintendo likes to shoot them all down?
Well, there's
Well,
just
we just have
nothing
a
left.
lot. We just have all the news.
And all the news. Let me make sure that there's nothing else because I didn't, like, I was so busy typing in that results stuff that I didn't go check the other. Uh,
Oh, by the way, the best part about the Labo VR kit, did you guys got it? You got it, didn't you, Marty?
yeah.
Is you could use these as googly eyes.
So much stuff that you can do with this level. With
I
this
mean,
kit.
that should have sold it in itself.
Right.
Nintendo
Sure.
missed an opportunity to market that.
All the fiddly bits, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Actually,
I'm not seeing anything else
Can
that
I-
really
can I-
needs
do you have this? Do you have the counts number and how many have played Tetris?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
do I look like I belong in
I
the
basically
Marvel
copied
universe?
those tweets verbatim, and I'm going to credit the source too. It was shoot. I hope I didn't page off that. I bet I did though. Oh crap! I did.
So,
Where did I get those?
so Gary, how far have you gotten in SteamWorld Quest?
I'd finished it.
You finished it? Okay.
Oh, here we go. David Gibson.
Yeah, I finished it. I finished it the day of the review embargo. So like my review went out late. Because I wanted to finish it in its entirety before I gave my verdict.
Okay. Yeah, I did. I don't do reviews just because I don't like writing them, but and very rarely do I even finish the game I start. But I had almost an hour and a half video go up Tuesday morning with the first look, basically the first two chapters, and then I had finished the game. I posted that as a premiere, so I was in the chat, in the live chat, talking to the people who were watching.
Has Biohazard Origins collection been talked about at all?
We mentioned that they were like all of the Resident Evil games were getting dumped on Switch at the same day, but that
Yeah,
was
but
pretty much
this
it.
looks like either a physical package or something.
No, we didn't talk
Shooting
about anything
games-
physical. We thought everything was digital.
This is like from the investor thing tonight. Biohazard Origins collection as well as Bustafellows. These are new games that I've not heard of. Had Slay the Spire been talked about before? I feel like it had.
What game?
Slay the Spire?
Sounds familiar, but I don't remember what we said about it.
Yeah, I feel like we talked about that because it was on a thing.
Oh my goodness. Box Boy's out.
It is.
That's
Yeah.
today.
Today.
That hit
And
today.
SteamWorld.
Oh,
I've got to buy both of those.
I just loaded this up to buy Katana Zero and now I'm completely torn.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because Katana Zero is it's ripping good, man. It's so good. Think about what. Okay, but look, let me say this before you buy one. Okay, here's my kind of pitch. You got to decide what type of game that you want right now, because both of them are puzzle games. But do you want a game that is cute and light? That's a puzzle game, and I don't mean light like easy light. I'm talking about like it's bright and it's happy, and that's Box Boy. If you want blood splattering ninja puzzles, then you want Katana Zero.
Guys, why has this never got talked about? There's a game called Moto Rush GP. Right?
Because no
On a
one
Switch.
cares.
Yeah, no one would care. But it has Labo support.
What?
What?
Yeah, I'm not even kidding. I've just quickly watched the trailer. Can you see this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But keep watching. I mean, don't get me wrong.
That looks kind of horrible.
Ready?
Showing the
Look at
handheld,
there.
the controller.
Oh, there we go. Labo support.
I'm quite blown away by that.
I mean, I guess anybody can use it if they want to.
Huh.
All right. Let's roll. I'm only going to talk about Mortal Kombat 11 this week when we talk about games we've been playing. And I can talk about it for a little bit. Jesse's got Steam World Quest, S3, and Final Fantasy X-2. Gary, what have you Steam World Quest as well?
Man, I've been playing.
Y'all can talk about that.
Steam World Quest, Cuphead, Labo VR has got to be talked about, isn't it?
Yeah, we talked a lot about Cuphead last week.
I brush past my games normally pretty fast anyway, so.
Yeah, but Labo VR, I would rather you spend a lot of time on that with the Zelda update at least.
Yeah.
Since I'm literally not been able to try any of it. So.
I'm going to skip talking about Enter Gungeon as well, because I mean, even though I've played it, it's been talked about to death, really, hasn't it?
And do you enjoy it? That's all I want to know.
Yeah, well, I've only done like 3 runs and unlocked nothing so far, so
well,
just for disclaimer purposes, roguelikes aren't my thing.
Yeah.
So you have got to bear that in mind.
The unlock on those games, or on that game in particular, is so much different than other roguelikes, because like with Flint Hook and others that I've been playing, there are like purchasable upgrades that you can see.
Yeah.
Enter the Gungeon's more, if you happen to do this, and this, then point C will show up and then you might be able to unlock it.
Yeah.
And your reward for that is that you populate the holding, the beginning, right at the beginning of the dungeon. They they come and they live there, and they do different things. But there's also something that you can do, and I'll throw this out here. There's also something that you can do starting in level 2, where when the bullet elevator drops you,
yeah,
you can go down the shaft and there's a dude there, and if you pay him certain things, and it's cumulative over games, if you pay him those things, you'll be able to start on level 2.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's cool.
Or start on level 3. So just throwing that out there. Jesse, are we ready?
Yep.
All right, Gary, let you do the intro this week.
Yeah, let's just quickly. So what's the main things we're talking about this week?
Mario Maker 2 release dates and physical briefings. Fiscal. Not a physical briefing. You could just say tonight on the show we're going to talk about Super Mario Maker 2 release date, Mario Kart Tour fiscal year results, and so much more.
And Walton in the chat is a guy I work with. So.
Oh, okay. It'd be nice if Justin was here to talk business, but oh well. He's going on a month-long holiday.
Whoa, he's going to Ibiza. Right, ready?
Yes, we are ready. Let Jesse count us down here.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Nintendo Dads episode 227, recorded on April 25th, 2019. On tonight's episode, we're about to discuss release dates galore and Nintendo's fiscal year. Jesse, bring us in.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Nintendo Dads, episode 227. It is April 25th, 2019, and that sound you hear is the collective nerds of the world crapping their pants over Avengers Endgame. With me tonight, the Iron Man to my Captain America, Mr. Jesse Waldeck. How are you, sir?
And they're all talking, and I'm like, la, 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 I don't want to know yet. Oh, la, la.
Somebody on the show has already seen it.
No, and he wants to talk about it too, and knows I'll be mad if he does.
You remember the After Dark episodes we used to do?
Yeah.
We should do one once you've seen it. Yeah. Maybe next week. Maybe we need to bring back the After Dark.
See, the company I work for used to give us, like, I think at least 3 years, maybe 4. We would have a private early screening of Marvel movies. They didn't do it with this one.
I don't think they let anybody do it before tonight.
Maybe it might have been a Marvel decision saying no, but we saw Infinity War, we saw the first Spider-Man, we saw Captain Marvel. So
yeah, but none of them have been like the culmination of 11 years like this one had. So
we were all expecting this would happen. So when we realized on Tuesday it wasn't happening, we scrambled to buy tickets.
Too late for some people, probably. Right. Also joining us,
I have tickets for tomorrow night.
Also joining us tonight, the Thor of our trio, Mr. Gary Gray, Flat Camp Gamer. How's it going, man?
Yeah, I know a lot of people often confuse me for Thor. It's the long hair, tall pecs, giant hammer and cape that I normally use. But I'm having a rest tonight. Okay.
Yeah, I'm glad you're a little down to earth.
I was going to say, you cosplayed when you saw it too, but then I remember you said you don't like these movies. So.
Now I need somebody out there in internet land. I need Gary's head on Thor's body. Get on that.
There's a face for you.
There you go. Somebody get on that and send us the results. Tweet that over to us.
That was more like Thor on the throne. You know, not the Iron Throne, the porcelain one.
The porcelain one, yes.
Actually, Gary, you've been associated with some Norse like stuff lately, haven't you? You know, there's like this guy that's following you around or something.
Oh man, there's this guy on Twitter. He's so annoying. He talks about himself like he's the greatest all the time, and he badgers me so much on my profile.
Yeah.
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 But anyway,
if you want to know what we're talking about, go over there and check out Flat Cap Gary over on Twitter. Did I get that right? Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a guy. He's called Nordish. That's the guy's profile. He's so weird. But,
Nordish.
Yeah.
He tweeted me something this week. It was weird. I don't know, but anyway. Speaking of weird, it's weird that we're not talking about Nintendo yet because we got a huge week this week. Release dates, like you said, to talk about fiscal year results, as well as there was an investor meeting tonight that just happened a couple of hours ago. I was going to say a couple of years ago. Just happened a couple of years ago. Having a couple of hours ago with some meeting results and different things like that, and we're going to dive right into that right now. Let's do it. And our news is brought to us by you over at patreon.com/Nintendo Dads. That's right. For as little as $1 a month, you can join the Ninvengers. You can assemble with us and help us create fantastic Nintendo Dads content every month. You can have access to our Discord chat, or for $5 a month, you can have full access. You get all the goods in the Discord, and then from there, the rewards just go up. And so you guys head on over to patreon.com/Nintendo Dads if you haven't already, and support us. Every little bit helps, and we are so thankful for our patrons who interact with us on a now daily basis and make life so much fun over in the Discord and on Twitter. Before we get into our news and headlines this week, we're going to have a correction from last week, Jesse. Is that right?
Yes. That was my fault because I just did the assumption and I didn't dig into it, but I heard other podcasters talking about it. I'm like, I suppose we should fix that. So we talked about the Castlevania Anniversary Collection last week, and it primarily consists of NES games and a few Game Boy games, and we mistakenly said that Kid Dracula was the Game Boy version because that's the only version we had ever seen in North America. I didn't even know that there was a Famicom version, and that's
I didn't either.
So that's it'll be the Famicom version in the collection instead of the Game Boy version.
That's really cool because, like I said, if you were listening to the show last week, I love Kid Dracula on the Game Boy, and the fact that we're actually going to get the Famicom version that I have never played, that's really excellent. I'm wondering if it's even going to be translated or if it's just going to be in the original language. I guess I'll wait.
If it's anything, is there a lot of words in it? And if it's anything like the original Castlevania, there is
probably not. But I mean, there were story segments in Kid Dracula for Game Boy, so yeah, I think there was like a little cutscene at the beginning, and that kind of set it up.
Evil Soul's asking if it's Famicom Disk System or Kart. I don't know, but I would kind of guess Famicom Disk System because the original Castlevania came out on the FDS in Japan. I'll see if I can verify that.
It was, if it makes any difference, it's the images that I'm finding as I'm Googling it are on a Kart. Does that make any difference?
I'm not sure. Well,
oh no! See, when I brought it up, it brought up the Wikipedia page as well, and it just shows the Game Boy version. Let's see. It is a Famicom game,
which
like literally translates out to Demon Castle Special. Kid Dracula is released in Japan only, and then it was brought over as Kid Dracula to the Game Boy in 1993.
Yeah, it looks like it is a Famicom Kart, not a Disk System game.
Okay. Glad we cleared that up, and glad that you are trying to hold us to some form of integrity there in what we say. I would be happy if both of them were on the collection, but I guess I'll just keep waiting on that Game Boy version. Couple of release dates we want to make mention of, as well as some game announcements and things that we need to talk about. Shakedown Hawaii, which is an indie title that has long been coming for the Nintendo Switch, has finally gotten a release date of May 7th. That's this 7th, this year.
2 weeks from
it's
now.
Also, it's 2 weeks from now. It's also coming to the 3DS. If you still play that thing. And Justin's not here to defend it, so I'll just leave it there. But Shakedown Hawaii is the Retro Rampage-esque, Grand Theft Auto 2-esque, top-down, pixelated murder simulator. That's the best way I know to put it.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty much like the old GTA's cranked up to like 12.
I was gonna say GTA if it was on a Famicom and was fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. It looks like a lot of fun. I don't know that I'm going to pick it up. I'm happy for people who are excited about that, but it's one of those things. Like, I know I've kind of poked the bear on this one a few times and said, we're Shakedown Hawaii.
Do you still have hype? Yeah. Do you still have hype for it after 18 months of waiting?
Yeah, that's a question. See, I don't know that I was ever really hyped for it to begin with.
Yeah.
I thought it was great that we were getting. Yeah, I mean, some people were legitimately, and I think some people are. But like, I've talked about it so much on the show that I think people think I want it because I got tweets about this. Like, hey, Marty, look at this. I don't really. I don't know. I don't really want the game. I'm not really a fan of Grand Theft Auto.
You get tweets about that. I get tweets about Picross.
Yeah, that's true.
I think I win this battle.
Speaking of Picross, Picross S3 released today, which was kind of a surprise announcement over the last week or so from Nintendo. They just kind of tweeted about, hey, like Picross S3 will be out next week, along with tons of other games on April 25th. And so you picked that one up, and you're going to talk about it later on in the show. Yep. You got that for free, didn't you?
I did. I cashed in some gold coins.
Yeah, that's why I air quoted for those who can't see us, free.
Right. So I still have like $6 in coins left. So
I use my coins much faster than you. You have much more self-control. Also announced this week, Super Mario Maker 2 is getting a release date June 28th, which is eerily close to the June 21st date that we had been hearing kind of bandied about when the direct rumors were still flying. But this is definitely confirmed now, June 28th. Pre-orders are already up for this in Japan and European Union. Actually, I think they're not up yet. I think they're coming, but they have been confirmed. Pre-ordering it at most retailers there in these two countries or two regions will give you a Mario-themed stylus that will work on the Switch's screen. But also, and I think this is the most interesting, and we're going to loop back around and talk about this later on during the results presentation, rundown. You also get a 12-month Nintendo Switch online subscription with Super Mario Maker 2.
So there's a couple of things with this. If the pre-orders are live in the EU at the minute, they're definitely live in the UK. If you order from store.nintendo.com, which is Nintendo's online store here, you do not get the stylus. You get either a diorama set, a notebook and pen, something like that. But the stylus hasn't been confirmed that you get that through those. But you do get it from places like Game or Smith's Toy Store, from what I'm gathering so far.
I'm glad you mentioned the diorama and pen and paper, though, because I had totally forgotten about those.
Yeah, there's all different. Whenever a big game like this comes out, the Nintendo Store tends to have these different SKUs of like pre-order bonuses, which you get to choose whatever your preference is, which is cool. Kind of missing the mark if they haven't got the stylus, because the stylus is the only thing really worth having out of all of those. I don't know anything about the 12-month subscription. I've seen that it's a thing, and I haven't looked into how you get that, whether it's just with Mario Maker or whether it's like an extra bonus on the side. I haven't actually seen that one.
You know how much of this stuff we're going to get as pre-order bonuses over here? 0.
Oh yeah, but when
we
you get your
nothing.
See, I was going to say when you get your pre-order bonus, sometimes you get amazing stuff, but I think we've done much better than you guys for the last year or two. I really feel
like Nintendo's pre-order bonuses for Japan and your region are way better. Like, you guys got the blue shell when Mario Kart 8 came out. You got the Superior Metroid Samus Returns special edition. You got there's been other stuff that you've got, that like the arms. Y'all got something like arm sleeves or something like that. Like, it was, and I mean, it's not like huge stuff, but that's like, oh, that's cool. I wish we had the option to get that, and we don't.
Also, talking of pre-order bonuses, the Fire Emblem Three Houses pre-orders went up as well. There's pretty much two according to Nintendo's site, which is a standard one and the Overkill Deluxe Edition. That is different in the EU again, as we don't get the CD, but instead we get the soundtrack on a USB. So we've hit 2019 now.
We're still in over here in like 2007. We're cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's awesome that they're doing the soundtrack on USB, and I'm quite surprised that a lot of other pre-order bonuses don't do the same thing. But I pre-ordered that set, and truth be told, it's only because you got some shield pins which will be worn on a flat cap.
Oh yeah, those will be cool. And see, that's just another example of the differences in the regions. I fully expect, Gary, that we will not get an opportunity to have the stylus. I really believe that.
Yeah.
Because it just seems like something that's so, now like GameStop may do it, but it won't be offered through Nintendo here at all. Our Nintendo, like store.nintendo.com doesn't even sell games over here. They sell refurbished systems. Like even right now, there's like refurbished NES and SNES classics up on there. But like, I want to say I don't think that they don't allow pre-orders. Like, like you guys can pre-order Amiibo directly through Nintendo. We can't do that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the fortunate thing. Our store's really cool. And like you say, you can pre-order stuff like Amiibo as long as you're trigger happy and get there within the first 5 minutes. But, it's such a shame that other regions don't have the same store because, in all honesty, it's a little bit more expensive than going to places like Smith's. I mean, Smith's, if you pre-order in advance, you get the game for £10 off normally.
I will say that I hadn't noticed this, and just for our listeners, that now store.nintendo.com sells apparel, bags and backpacks, board and card games, books, figures and collectibles, journals and pins, plushes, seasonal items, toys, decor, and drinkware. I did not know that had happened. So you can go in there and there's the Legend of Zelda backpack with the Hyrule crest on it. That actually looks pretty neat.
Yeah,
there's Cappy insulated travel bottle and tea infuser.
Ooh, see, we don't get the tea infuser. What's going on there?
They're actually selling the Legend of Zelda Figma Link figure and the Mario Nindoroid for, actual non-inflated prices and stuff. I want to say this is probably some stuff like the Kirby face t-shirt and other stuff. This is stuff that they offer at Nintendo or the Nintendo store, New York store. Right, yeah, are you writing us a message?
This is my letter of complaint that we don't get the tea infuser. How dare they?
Gotcha. How about the Super Mario striped knit beanie?
Oh, that also sounds pretty cool.
Or the Legend of Zelda gift box that comes with.
It's
Link baseball cap, Legend of Zelda gold cartridge wallet, and Gary, here's where you get jealous. Legend of Zelda themed lapel pins. And one of them is, get this, one of them is the silver shield image from the front of the Legend of Zelda cartridge sticker. The other is a lapel pin reproduction of the gold cartridge Legends of Zelda.
Man, that.
It's really nice, but it's $50 for a cap, a cartridge wallet, and lapel pins.
Our store's awful. Why would you want games?
Dude, so why can we import pre-order Amiibo and games? Give me the Zelda box.
Pins. Yeah.
And there's a Mario one too that comes with pins. Sorry, I should probably not tell you.
Right, and speaking of putting a pin in it, let's talk about Persona 5.
Yeah. Let's move away from the website for a minute. Persona 5S teased for months now, got a teaser for another teaser, but in that was also a reveal that Persona 5S is not Persona 5 Switch, as so many people thought it would be. Instead, it's a brand new game, Persona 5 Scramble: The Phantom Strikers, which will be released on PS4 and Switch. It's Persona 5 Cross Dynasty Warriors.
Yeah,
it's a mixed game.
It's basically Persona 5 Warriors.
Yeah.
Strikers is just a different word for Warriors at this point.
Yeah. So no release window is known about this, but it's probably going to come out in Japan first, the West sometimes in 2020. This will probably coincide with the release or be near the release of Persona 5 Royal, which was announced this week as a brand new game that is going to add a new semester and a new playable character to the Persona 5 story. Jesse, let me ask you, you're our Persona 5 guy. I'm slowly making my way through the game, but a couple of things here. Is Persona 5 Scramble just the story of Persona 5 done in the Strikers or done in the Dynasty Warriors format, or is it a brand new game entirely? And also, if I have Persona 5, is there like a DLC that Royals will come to, or do I have to buy the whole new game?
The first question is, I don't see how they can be compatible, so I think this is a completely different story. Maybe a side story, but it isn't. It won't be a retelling of the original game.
Gotcha.
For Persona, if they do the same thing like they did with Persona 4 to Golden, I don't think there'll be a way to get DLC to upgrade your original one. You'd have to buy it outright, and that will be a retelling of the original story with the extra content slapped onto it. So very similar to what P3 did with the PSP version and the P4 did with Golden on Vita.
Okay, I don't agree with it, but I get why they're doing it. I mean, it's money, right?
Right. I was hoping for the Royal on the Switch. That would be the best case scenario. I think there's enough new that I'll probably still buy it on PS4.
Right. Well, I think this would be a good time for us to take an aside here and simply say this: the rumor mongering is getting a little out of control.
Yeah.
This is why you have people crying about Nintendo Directs every week on YouTube and Twitter. There has never, I think this proves here, there was never ever a plan to port Persona 5 to the Switch.
Some people still think it might be coming.
Because there was the words Persona 5 were thrown out there with the initial S after it. And immediately everybody was like, well, S obviously has to stand for Switch. No, it doesn't.
Yeah,
and
we're forgetting Zach's mantra.
High hopes, low expectations.
Right.
It wouldn't surprise me if just revealing that S was actually a marketing plan, because it means that Persona 5 got talked about so much, especially with Joker being in Smash Bros. And the thing is, I mean, look at it historically, right? I mean, I don't know anything about Persona, so you guys can correct me if I'm completely wrong here, but aren't the mainline games pretty much just PlayStation exclusive normally? And Persona 5 was
they have
announced.
Been in the past, and and as I said earlier, like P3 was on the PS2 with its upgrade on, well, that's kind of in quotes because they downgraded a few things on the PSP. P4 was on the PS2 with Golden on the Vita, so the historical was having its upgrade on a handheld device. They currently have no handheld device, so putting it on Switch would have made sense, and still kind of does.
That's true, and long story short, it may still happen, but yeah. I just think like all of us, and I'm talking about us like fans, podcasters, journalists, however you want to term yourself. It's time to take a step back.
Yeah,
and Nintendo's knocking it out of the park, and we're going to talk about a little bit of why we say that here in a minute. But like, just let them live their lives. Just let them do it.
I mean,
if there's not a direct now, especially after some of the things we're going to talk about from this briefing and everything, there's not going to be a direct before E3.
Yeah,
that's my prediction.
The thing is, what people have got to remember as well is that Persona 5 is probably an exclusivity deal with Sony. Like if their mainline games haven't strayed from a Sony system, then there's probably a reason for that, right? Like what happened with Final Fantasy.
It doesn't mean exclusivity or paid for exclusivity, sure.
And I know that people were like, such as myself, were saying that Cuphead would never come to Switch because it's Microsoft owned. Except that relationship's obviously got a little bit strange. But there's still this thing about like us getting exclusives off other consoles, like the Rare Replay and Banjo for Smash and all that kind of stuff. And the Xbox Game Pass. There's so much that they can't do because it will destroy their own brands. That's like us saying, well, Mario's going to end up on the PlayStation next month. It's not going to happen because it's ultimately destroying the reason that you would buy the consoles in the first place is for the exclusives. Like that's the thing that drives these consoles at the minute. It's not the power really, and it's not this, and it's not that. They've all got their own unique things.
You get near end of console life, and some of that gets thrown out the window.
Yeah. Well, and I think it goes back to the Switch effect, right? Everything, like port everything to the Switch, put it all on there. That's what everybody wants because they want the portability of it. They want that and really it's not. I think that something that is driving sales right now, especially with third-party titles with Switch, is people aren't necessarily like I know some people who they don't care about first-party stuff. They care that they can play Cuphead on their Switch, or they can play Diablo 3, or they can play Doom, or they can play whatever. It's like it's all about I can take these experiences with me, right? It may be a little underpowered. Mortal Kombat 11 is a great example of this. It may be a little underpowered. It may not be everything that the home version is, but I'm sacrificing that so that I can play it on the go, because there's a ton of people who are like me that's where most of their gaming happens now. Right now, I'm in a very busy season of my life. I'm playing mostly on the go. So I think that, the people's hopes were It's a 100-hour RPG. I'd really like it to be on the Switch so that I actually could play it. I could actually have some time with it, sink some time into it in my commute or at my office when I'm on break or whatever. But it's kind of like the whole thing with EA, like EA continuing to still not even want to try to explore doing anything with the Switch at this point is mind-bogglingly stupid to me. I don't get it. I don't understand it. And I know people will say, like, well, it's about the money. Well, yeah, but like, guys, jumping ahead a little bit here, let me just blow this right here. Almost 35 million Switches have been sold worldwide. At what point do you say, okay, we're going to develop for it? At what point does the excuse, we got to wait and see if it's successful, go out the window? And so I'm fine with the scramble game. I'll probably play it now that I'm into Persona 5 and all that, but I hate it for all the people who had their hopes up and were like, oh, we're definitely getting Persona 5. We're definitely getting the port from the PS4. Well, no, you're not, and it sucks. And at the same time, it's a good lesson to learn. Echoing what JC said about Mr. Erickson, high hopes, low expectations, right? Also, Mario Kart Tour was mentioned this week. It kind of came out of nowhere that there's now a closed beta that is, I think you can still sign up for, but only if you're an Android user and only if you have a Gmail account. Like, that's the most bizarre restriction.
Well, not really, because if you have an Android, you have a Gmail. Android is a Google phone.
But it may not be your primary.
No, but I think you still have to use a Gmail account to register your Android. So
you might have to, but it's still on track for a summer 2019 release, and we'll circle back around.
I didn't even write that as a pun on purpose.
Yeah, still on track. I get it.
That legitimately was pun not intended.
Yep. So those are all of our release dates for this week. So what we're going to do right now is break down some news from Nintendo's briefings that have come out in the last couple of days. First from their fiscal year, and then from a financial, basically what's being called a financial results meeting that was held earlier this evening. And by this evening, I mean the night that we record this, but was during the day on Friday in Japan due to the time. So let's talk about some of these numbers. I've already mentioned the biggest one, and that is that 34.7 million Switches have now been sold globally. That comes in at about 16.95 million units sold during the second year, which almost reached the modified 17 million unit projection that, of course, you remember, I think the original projection was 20. Am I right? And they downgraded that earlier this year or late last year, even after a stellar holiday season. And, I guess now we see why they were right. However, this is up year over year from 15.05 million units sold last year, which also doesn't count for the 2.74 million units sold in the 2017 fiscal year, which would have been the first month of sales. The big news here is that the Switch sales are now beating out lifetime sales of the Nintendo 64 by almost 2 million, which is pretty incredible if you think about it, because the Nintendo 64 in a lot of ways was hailed as like Nintendo's last really, really popular system, I guess. I mean, GameCube was somewhat popular at 21 million.
Yeah,
but
the next target is the Super Famicom, Super Nintendo, which is at 49.1 mil.
Yep, and I think they won't have any problem getting there. In fact, I read an article earlier this week that said that globally, that Nintendo Switch is on track to surpass PlayStation 4 sales, which, if you think about it, are pretty darn incredible.
I don't even know what PS4 numbers are. I'll try to find it.
It's upwards of 70 million.
91.6.
Yeah. So think about that.
That might be
that
kind of might be a stretch. But
think about 91 million Switches in the wild, and that makes you a little giddy as a Nintendo fan. Now, I don't know that's probably going to be entire life cycle, right? But cheers, Nintendo! Bravo for being back in the game. I'm excited for that. They also mentioned top selling games during this financial briefing. They still the biggest selling game on Nintendo Switch, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, is now sitting at almost 17 million units sold, 16.69 million. That's a 48% attach rate. Thank you for putting that in there, Jesse. I appreciate that. That's a good percentage. That's all. That means that almost half of Switch owners own Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. You guys remember back in March of 2017 or so when we sat around and talked about how people couldn't understand why they were making Mario Kart 8 Deluxe?
Yeah. Right.
And about how we talked about how
we already played this game.
It might. Well, we already played this game. It will probably never outsell Mario Kart 8.
Sure, it did.
Yeah, good times.
It outsold Wii U sales.
Yeah, and now that's nothing to sneeze at because it was the top selling Wii U game?
Yeah,
I believe so. Yeah,
I think so.
So they've completely outsold that. Coming in at number 2, Super Mario Odyssey has now sold 14.44 million units. That's a 41.6% attach rate. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, which has only been out about 5 months now, has sold 13.81 million copies, 39.8% attach rate. I do not think it's out of the realm of logic that by the time we see the next game top selling list from internally from Nintendo, Smash Brothers is at the top of that list.
Yeah, especially if they release some really popular DLC fighters, that could bump that straight up. No problem.
Well, our good friend Jacob Rush over at Nintendo Nostalgia knows that when they drop Steve as the Minecraft, as the Microsoft addition to the DLC, that it's just going to blow up and it's going to be like 20 million Smash Brothers sold by the end of the year. Isn't that right, Jacob? Deep in your heart, you know. Coming in at number 4, Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild, 12.77 million. That's a 36%, almost 37% attach rate. Number 5, Pokemon Let's Go. Both games combined have sold 10.63 million.
Which that's a 30% kind of surprises me. Because
really,
because that we were talking about 10 million back at the 2 or 3 months ago. So yeah. It really hasn't. It pretty much died out really quick as soon as.
Well, I think it did when Sword and Shield got announced. I think that kind of probably blunted that momentum right there. Rounding out this list, we'll go through these real quick. Splatoon 2 at 8.7 million. Super Mario Party at 6.4 million. New Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe 3.31 million. Remember when we said that wouldn't sell either? Everybody's like, it's just a Wii U port. It's the same game. 3.31 million people tell you you're wrong. 1-2 Switch is on this list at 2.97 million, and Mario Tennis Aces at 2.64 million. Those last two, let me tell you what I think those last two games are. The reason they're on there is I kind of believe that Walmart sold a ton of those bundles.
Also, I know a lot of people make fun of 1-2 Switch, but I mean, I was at a barbecue the weekend and I took my Switch, and that would have been the perfect game to play because I was there with basically the majority of non-gamers.
Right.
And that would be the perfect fit in.
I would imagine.
And yeah, well, it goes without saying. And 1-2 Switch, yeah, it's not the hardcore gamers game, but I mean, it's the equivalent of Wii Sports now.
It's the tech demo game.
Yeah, so I'm not at all surprised that that's.
I would.
Yeah, it's a good party game to play it once, but after that, it's never played again.
I would die if Nintendo hit E3 this year and gave us Nintendo Sports, because you can't call it Wii Sports.
No, right? I know what would kill you off if it was 1, 2, 3 Switch.
No.
I just want bowling back, Gary. I want the good bowling back. I don't want it to be a tech demo. I want it to be, Wii Sports Resort Bowling, please. You know the easiest way to do this, right? By the way, the easiest way for Nintendo to do this: flip the W upside down.
Yeah.
Mi Sports Resort. Mi Sports Resort, new and improved on the Switch. Play bowling and bike or whatever, or dogfight anytime, anywhere. I'm down.
Now, when you were saying dogfight, I was thinking of the frisbee throw where the dog catches it. So the dogfight had a completely different meaning in my head than yours.
Listen, Nintendo already has a illegal animal fighting game.
Pokemon.
Pokemon.
Yeah. All these sales numbers include single cart sales, includes digital sales, includes bundle with system sales.
And it's kind of interesting, really, to see these numbers because, again, like people were saying that Mario Kart 8 won't sell and that New Super Mario Brothers U. What's the point in that? Well, there is point, but one of the other things that people always said was, why isn't 1, 2 Switch bundled in? And now I think we know the answer because it sold well on its own. It didn't need to be bundled in by the look of it at all. So, when it released, you had the choice of that, Zelda, and Bomberman R. I think that was it, pretty much it for the main games, wasn't it? Well, 1, 2 Switch has held its own really now. So, as ARMS did as well. So it'll be interesting to see if any new games that come out like that will hold the same amount of attach rate.
I think it's interesting that you mentioned ARMS because I was going to bring up that you remember we used to celebrate ARMS being a million seller, right? Mm. Well, I love the fact that as you look at this chart, there is nothing on this chart of top 10 selling games that is under 2.5 million. That's a huge accomplishment.
I think so, yeah. I mean, as soon as the game gets into its millions, it's already a success.
It's a huge accomplishment where, 5 years ago, we were jumping up and down excited if a game sold 2 million. Or it did 4 million.
200,000.
Yes. So, I think that put it in perspective of what we've come from. Switch is doing great. It's doing grand. They did also take a minute to mention lifetime sales for all consoles except the Virtual Boy, which I think is interesting. But this is, we'll just run these down just so you guys kind of know where Nintendo stands with the Switch. Nintendo's best-selling console of all time was the Nintendo DS at 154 million consoles sold, and I believe that counts Nintendo DS, Nintendo DSi, Nintendo DS Lite.
Yes.
Am I right about that?
Yeah, it encompasses the entire DS family.
Right. Just
the
like
DS
the Game Boy,
XL, the DSi XL.
Just like Game Boy at 118 million encompasses anything that was labeled a Game Boy. Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Advance SP.
Game Boy Advance is separate, but
really?
Game Boy Color, Game Boy Pocket.
Okay.
So that's the Game Boy era.
I see that down here. I see that. Wii is the top-selling home console still at 101.63 million. Game Boy Advance, so that would include Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Advance SP. Would it include Game Boy Micro?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. 81.51 million.
Now, would it count Game Boy Player?
Ooh.
I don't know.
I wonder if that counts software or hardware. That's a really good question.
That's more of an accessory for
Nintendo
the
3DS clocks in at 75 million. Famicom/NES 61 million. SNES Super Famicom at 49.10 million. So that puts the Nintendo Switch at 34.74 million. Right above Nintendo 64 at 32 million, almost 33. Nintendo GameCube at 21.7 million and Wii U at 13.5 million. We've come a long way from celebrating the Switch crossing. We use.
I want to know those Virtual Boy numbers, man.
Yeah, I do too.
4.
4. I used to have one of them.
I wish I did. I had a chance and I missed it.
Now you've got me Googling. Units sold. I got it right here.
Well,
straight from Wikipedia.
I see units shipped 770,000.
770,000. So that's what Nintendo would put on there. So that is officially their worst selling console, not even selling 1 million. And if you've ever played one, you know why. Because it's one of the most headache-inducing experiences of your entire life.
Yeah, and I mean, there's other consoles as well that Nintendo hasn't put on this list just for transparency. You know, I mean, True. If you want to class the Game & Watch series as a series, then that isn't on here either. You know, they've had all sorts of little spin-off consoles here and there as well. They're not on this. So it's kind of interesting. I mean, I'd like to personally see the Nvidia Shield numbers from China because of the Nintendo games on that. But obviously that's not Nintendo predominantly, so it makes sense it's not on this list. But I would love to see the numbers for that because last thing I heard was the software didn't do so well. But then again, we don't know the hardware sales that tied to it, so it'd be interesting.
Well, and the interesting point with that, Gary, is that Nintendo is trying to push into the Chinese market with Tencent being the ones that would, I guess, advertise or sell or carry stock, whatever, the Switch. And there's been some interesting rumblings of approval and all kinds of things there. So, but it's just, according to them, this week, it's just not ready. That was mentioned at the financial result meeting tonight. So let's talk about a few of those things and kind of transition because this was an event, and just for full transparency, all of this information I was able to get off of Twitter tonight a couple hours ago from a user, David Gibson, at GibboGame, who was actually at this briefing meeting, as well as some other websites, but I just followed his thread because it was the first one I saw. So at GibboGame, thank you for reporting this so that we could use it and others could see it. Really interesting stuff that Nintendo of Japan president shared in this meeting tonight. And some of these that we'll stop and talk about just a little bit, and some of them we'll just kind of breeze through. The first one was that Nintendo's president mentioned that post-New Year growth is up for Nintendo Switch, and they expect up to 23% growth year over year for the Switch this year. So, in other words, the Switch is already off to a fantastic start or was off to it had a good start for this fiscal quarter, which is what they're talking about, and they expect way more growth this year. The Switch is also globally ahead of 3DS's pace for console sales, but at this point is behind pace when compared to the DS and the Wii. Yeah, however,
3DS kind of had a crap first year too.
Yeah, it did. It did. But I think it's worth noting, as the president said, launch timing has impacted this. So whereas those consoles launched at a different time during the year and different quarters, or perhaps had more time or less time, whatever, the Switch launching when it did has impacted that pace. Which, I mean, right? I mean, a lot of consoles don't launch in March of a year.
Well, the 3DS, I think was April. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was close.
But
You're right.
I think the DS and the Wii's were both Novembers.
Yeah. Smash Brothers was mentioned specifically as a driver of post
15 years ago the DS launch.
15?
2004?
Oh, gosh. I got one of those for Christmas. Smash Brothers was mentioned specifically as a driver of post-New Year sales. We already knew that. I do want to mention here that Smash Brothers was listed elsewhere on a graph. They had a kind of an infograph of titles played on the first day of console usage, which I think is an interesting statistic for them to collect data from. But on the first day of console usage, Smash Brothers was at the top of the list at 26%. So it's definitely driving. I think the correlation here is not only is it driving, it's the correlation is it's driving sales. It's driving first time console sales, right? This is the game. This is the game that people are buying Switches for, and there's a huge gap here as well. Smash Brothers at 26%, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe at 16%. So there's a 10% gap in people buying Switches and what they're buying it for. Just also compare Pokemon Let's Go across all versions was at 13%, and Breath of the Wild was at 11%. That's a 15% difference when you get down to Breath of the Wild. So that's pretty crazy when you think about it for a game that's only been out 5 months. Game sales were also up year over year 50% in the March quarter. So Nintendo sold 50% more games in January, February, March this year than they did last year. And I think that's fair, right? We kind of knew that was going to happen. I don't recall there being any just major blockbusters in that quarter.
I think early 2018 was a slow start.
It was.
Just because they kind of blew their load with Odyssey.
And then you had it launched earlier than Smash.
Yeah.
So you had Smash coming in later.
Odyssey was October. Smash was December.
Yeah. So Smash drove that 50%. Absolutely. Switch software sales per hardware are better than the Wii, according to Furukawa. To quote him, very high level of software sales, and that he also stated that monthly active users has doubled year over year in the March quarter. So in other words, 50% more users are active each month on Nintendo Switch over last year. So that's pretty good growth.
I think the indie scene, on the Switch is, at least compared to what the crap that WiiWare was, is a factor in that.
Yeah. Yeah, a bunch of 99-cent games and stuff like that as well are obviously going to boost this. I can't remember the name of the game now, but there was a game at number one in the charts for ages, and the only reason was
Bouncy
that it's 99 cents. Bouncy Bob, that's it. So, does
lately
that count in this?
It's been the unfortunately named Ding Dong XL.
Ding Dong XL, yeah.
Which is a really good game.
Yeah.
Please don't let the name put you off from that. But another thing too that I think that it's interesting here to point out is that this year at this quarter, Nintendo also was positioned with lots more online gaming experiences than they were the year before. Right? Because it was just this past year, was it not just this past year that we got Fortnite at E3? Yeah, E3 2018. E3 2018 was Fortnite because E3 2017 was Rocket League. So you've got Fortnite, you've got Rocket League, you've got Tetris 99, you've got lots of those online experiences that are drawing people to come back and connect on the Switch that way, as well as Smash and all kinds of other stuff. So, of course, you're going to see more activity there. Shantaro Furukawa also mentioned continuous first-party releases this year, along with games that have not even been revealed yet. And from there went on to show kind of an infographic of releases. And I'm going to see if I can pull this up real quick because I actually lost it just a little bit ago. Here it is. Spring, it was kind of divided into 4 categories. Spring being Nintendo Labo and Mario Maker 2. Summer being Fire Emblem and Astral Chain, which I had no clue we were getting that soon. Yeah, I think that's really good.
That's a surprise, yeah.
Also, winter is being classified as Pokemon Sword and Shield. And then 2019, just sometime this year, Luigi's Mansion 3, Animal Crossing, latest in the series. That's an interesting subtitle. and Zelda Link's Awakening. So all three of those games still confirmed to come out in 2019, as well as unreleased stuff. So, and when understand when Nintendo says an unreleased or not revealed games, they're not talking about third party games. They're talking about first party titles that Nintendo has yet to reveal. I would say that we're probably going to see a couple of those at E3. I don't. Do you think there would be more than a couple, or like I'm thinking 1 to 2 at most?
Yeah, the weird thing is when basically the Switch combined the dev teams to be focused on one system. We were all expecting like a lot of games, and I hear echoes that people are like, "Oh, I was hoping there'd be more games." I'm sorry, but this has blown away like the Wii U in terms of releases already.
Yeah,
like we're getting so many games that I can't complete a game before the next game comes out. And I think they could go into E3 this year and just have like 2 reveals, and that's it. We would still have enough to play, because by the time the December Direct rolls around, guess what? We're still playing the games that have been announced from last year and this year. So I think E3 might be light. I think we've been going in a trend for that for a while now, and I think that not doing the digital presentation and just doing that treehouse thing with the 1 year, that could happen again.
no, they already confirmed that there will be a regular E3 presentation.
And I honestly don't think that we necessarily need a big E3 blowout anymore. I know that this is just things that other people have already said, but I mean, we got so much anyway that could we possibly hold more?
And here's the thing: I don't think you're wrong when you say that. However, I do think that on the PR end of it, that for them to have really at the past 2 E3s blown it out of the water with the digital presentation and be kind of the innovator of the digital presentation, as we see more and more people moving to that, right? I think that for them to not have something, and I'm like you, I don't think it has to be like blockbuster. I don't think it has to be groundbreaking. I think it needs to be good, but for them not to have that would be a huge misstep PR wise.
Yeah, I mean, Nintendo uses E3 to really drive and focus on one game and then have another bunch of announcements. But their drive is like, this is the game you need to play.
Here's my thought,
you need to get excited for.
Hearing the like seeing how they've classified the game: spring, summer, winter, nothing for the fall.
Yeah.
Here's my thing though. Those 3, Luigi's Mansion and what were the others? Animal Crossing, and all that, they seem to slot well into that fall category. I honestly don't think they're going to release Link's Awakening at the end of 2019, because I'm afraid that they think it will take away from Pokemon.
Yeah.
However, the other thing that I wonder is this: is Fire Emblem the big E3 game?
When's E3? I thought Fire Emblem was released just mid-June. I think Fire Emblem's like just after, so I don't think it is now.
Uh-oh. Did we lose you? No, you're there. The last thing we heard was just after.
Yeah, I think it's just after releasing, just after E3. So I don't think it is. I mean, we've already had like a bit of a direct with it all and stuff. So I think the Fire Emblem is pretty much what it is now, and E3 will definitely focus on something else.
July 26th. You're right. I just like, with all the hype and everything, and with it hitting summer, I don't know. I still see them building the town, like around their booth, and having Animal Crossing be it. I don't think Luigi's Mansion is there to be the capstone game. I love Luigi's Mansion, but I don't think I don't think that franchise is at that level yet. But who knows? Just let's run through a few more of these really quick, because some of it's actually really interesting. They mentioned some stuff about Nintendo Online, which is now at 9.8 million accounts. That does include family accounts. So if you're like me and you're running the family account and you've got 2 people on it, then those don't count as 2 accounts. That counts as 1. 9.8 million. Tetris 99 has also been played by 2.8 million of those accounts. For the other 7 million of you who have not played Tetris 99, what the crap? It's the greatest thing that they've given us from Nintendo Switch Online
Smash and Kart
or they're just waiting to download their new games every month. Speaking of new games, it was specifically mentioned that SNES titles will be coming to Nintendo Online and that will happen, quote, in the future to increase value.
I reckon that could be an E3 announcement this year. I
think it's definitely an E3.
The NES is spreading a little fear, and truth be told, I haven't really even tried to play a game properly on the Switch NES app yet because we had the NES Classic. So as a Nintendo hardcore fan like us guys are, I kind of didn't feel it that appealing to play it on the Switch.
It's good to have portable.
Yeah.
I like it portable. Like I like. Oh, I've got 5 minutes. I'll boot up Super Mario Brothers 3.
Just as long as you're not away from a hotspot for a week.
Yeah, you're right. That happened to me, by the way, when I was in Mexico, because I didn't check in right before. For some reason I just forgot, and I was down there for 7 days, so I had to check in before I left to keep it going, and I didn't. And so, midway through the week, I was like, hey, and I had spotty cell phone coverage down there that I could hotspot my phone out of. And I was like, man, I want to play Super Mario Brothers 3. I've got an hour. And it took 10 minutes for me to confirm.
Wow.
Just to do the check. Yeah, it was not great. Couple more things about online. Mobile has 2 titles coming this summer. This was interesting to me because in the briefing, Furukawa said that 2 titles had been announced for this year, mobile. What are those titles? Mario Kart Tour is one of them. What's the other?
I'm sure they mentioned. Didn't they mention a Zelda at some point? I'm sure they mentioned a Zelda at some point. Yeah.
It wasn't an official announcement. It was just says we're more of we're thinking about it, or it's in the works, but really hasn't been announced.
Let me read the
it's Dr. Mario.
It's Dr. Mario. That is right. That is right. It says mobile titles planned.
Forgot about that one.
Is 2 to 3. Have announced 2 titles. These are the focus for this year. So in other words, if you're hoping for that Zelda mobile app, it's not happening in 2019. Dr. Mario and Mario Kart will be the focus this year, which means that Mario Kart will not drop it all, or I'm sorry, Dr. Mario will not drop it all this summer. It's not happening. Yeah.
I haven't even played Dragalia Lost. We got it so late that it fell out of the hype circles.
The hype is gone.
And I didn't
hope
even
that does not happen to you with Mario Kart Tour and Dr. Mario.
To be honest, I've come to the conclusion that I'm just not interested in Nintendo's mobile games, which as a fan is kind of it's like stabbing yourself in the chest. But I don't know. It's not for me. It's cool for the people who like it.
You're not alone. I played Mario Run when it was new, and it fell out of fancy really fast.
Yeah, I've not played Animal Crossing or Fire Emblem much at all.
I didn't Fire Emblem got deleted after
3 days. I still go back to Mario Run every now and then, and I see Animal Crossing Pocket Camp, and I'm like, that looks appealing. And then I think about going back and playing it, and it just my energy drains. I'm like, oh no. So the guidance, and just so we're clear on this term, when they talk about guidance for the next quarter, and what this refers to as, and I'm just reading this from the internet. All right. So I'm not an investment guru or anything like that. My bank account would gladly share with you that I am not. Guidance refers to information that companies disseminate to shareholders in an effort to indicate projected future performance. In other words, this is how we think we're going to do over this next year. All right. So Nintendo's guidance for investors as of this evening was that they will sell 18 million Switches for the rest of or over the next fiscal year. So 18 million, and I totally think that that is doable, considering the fact that you've got a brand new Pokemon game coming out, you've got Luigi's Mansion and Animal Crossing, Fire Emblem, which is niche, yes, but it has its dedicated fans.
2 rumored new hardware SKUs.
Yeah,
you'll get people double dipping.
That also got shot down hard by Nintendo's president, who said, "We will reveal no hardware at E3." And the rumors circulate about, Switch Mini's coming last of June. Switch Mini, no, it's not. Give it up. It's not happening. I highly doubt it's happening this year because they're selling too many regular Switches to make new ones. Why shoot your momentum in the foot by introducing a new hardware SKU? Wait till it cools off a little bit and then do it.
I'm still saying it's going to be 2DS timing, so they'll do a Junior in November with Pokemon.
Seeing some of the concepts that are floating around are actually really cool, and I wouldn't mind that at all. But anyway, bottom line, I don't think it's outside the realm that they oversell over this 18 million this year.
I actually think that 18 million is a little high. I don't think they're going to reach the 18 million.
You think they're going to have to revise again and take another stock hit again?
I think they will, and it's nothing to do with me thinking that Pokemon's not going to shift that many systems or anything like that. I just don't know. I don't think it's gonna reach it. It's a personal thing. I mean, if Smash Bros is one of the highest selling games on the system at the minute, and they had to amend their forecast last year, then I can't see it being hitting that target this year.
Yeah, but they had to amend that forecast with a game that was out for 3 weeks at the end of a year.
True, but we don't know when Pokemon's releasing yet.
Yeah, but we kind of do. I mean, we say we don't, but we kind of do because we know it's going to be November. I mean, people who follow the release schedule of Pokemon games know it's pretty much going to be November. Now, investors don't know that, maybe. And just saying winter doesn't exactly inspire confidence. But you also got to understand, too, that we're talking 18 million, and we've mentioned Fire Emblem and Animal Crossing and Pokemon, and didn't even mention Super Mario Maker, which is Super Mario Maker is going to sell 10 million this year. It's going to happen.
Yeah, I believe
because the community behind it is ridiculous.
Right. It may not be as fast as Odyssey, but I think it'll be close.
Yeah, it's going to sell 10 million.
I think we'll be talking about 10 million in the September briefing.
Yeah, I wouldn't. That wouldn't surprise me a bit. Nintendo, moving forward, they did say kind of here are some concerns that they have or some things that they want to look at. Number one is that they want to find a way to increase Switch software tie ratio for Nintendo Online. In other words, how do we get more software to tie to Nintendo Online to make it more profitable, to make it something that more people are going to buy into? The other thing they talked about was cloud gaming, and this was their actual quote on cloud gaming. We see the importance for consumers, and we will need to accommodate that. But then they follow it up with this very Nintendo-esque language. But our forecast is to provide entertainment only we can provide.
I like that.
Like, in other words, we see you, cloud gamers. We see you, and we know we're going to have to do something about that, but not right now. Not now.
No Resident Evil 7 for you.
Yeah. The last thing that they said was that they have some concerns for, quote, peaking in the third year, but because of the momentum of the Switch, they don't think that will be the case. Which, again, that's all speculation, and it could change, but I kind of agree with the momentum that they have. I don't think that they're going to peak in year 3.
The cloud game...
Late 4, early 5.
Go ahead, Jesse. Sorry.
So, yeah, going back to what we said about Nintendo's E3 presentation, they're going to do the direct style thing like they've done, right? Is that what you said?
Yeah. We had mentioned that a little bit earlier, but they did. There was some there was some confusion in the way things were getting translated over at the guy who we were following on Twitter. But they did have a slide at the very end of the presentation in English that basically said E3 will be business as usual. We'll do, the digital event, and then we'll have the treehouse.
Okay, sounds good.
So that is pretty much all of our news for this week, except for some events. Just one, actually. So let's talk about that real quick. So we're going to talk a little bit about Pokemon Go. Pokemon Go event, Lugia, Huo, Latios, and Latios will be the research breakthrough encounters for May and June, so be looking out for those. I also want to mention that as of the recording of this podcast, the Super Mario Odyssey and Zelda Breath of the Wild VR updates through Labo are now available. Those games have updated. Also, Smash Brothers has been updated to version 3.0.1. Mario Tennis Aces, I believe, has been updated. Splatoon 2 has updated to version 4.7.0. And the Nintendo Switch firmware itself has been updated to version 8.0.1, which you should already know. If you haven't turned on your Switch, though, there you go.
I saw an update to SteamWorld Quest come through, but I have no idea what was patched.
Yeah, there was a day one patch for that. I have no idea either.
Yeah. Hang on. I may have just found something about that. Nope.
So the vast majority of the updates seem to be just mainly stability and error patches for like Splatoon and stuff. I don't think anything major happened on the Switch's one. I think that was just stability again, wasn't it? Correct me if I'm wrong there.
Oh yeah, the 0.8 I'm sorry, 8.0.1 was all about stability. Yeah. The most stablest of stables.
The horses are happy.
That's right. Let's talk about what we've been playing. Gary, I want to start with you this week because you did get to dive into some Breath of the Wild VR, and I would love an explanation for that. But I also want to get you and Jesse to tag team some SteamWorld Quest. So why don't you guys talk about that one first?
Yeah, let's talk about SteamWorld Quest for a little bit. So Jesse's got some like a Let's Play up on the channel, I believe.
Yeah, the first 2 chapters, which took me just shy of an hour and a half.
You completed this game, Jesse?
Yeah, I had finished it. It took me about 20 hours total, and I didn't collect. I didn't collect all the treasures. After like the first 3 chapters, I'm like, okay, I'm going to give up on this. I just need to keep going forward. Otherwise, I'll be doing this the entire week.
So for anybody who's out of the know with this one, basically the SteamWorld games have had a varied sort of genre as they've gone along. So there's a good couple of games from tower defense to a Metroidvania about digging and a basically turn-based shooter with like RPG elements. So this one's basically more RPG. It's got card elements in it, but that's not the driving force of the game. The RPG elements are the driving force, and the card mechanic is just the way that the moves are chosen, which is an interesting sort of way of doing it. I really like the battle system. You basically build a deck for each character. So you have 3 characters in your party. They each have their own deck. You can choose the cards that are in them. Some of them you can choose more than once, so they'll appear more. And some of the cards also have what they call for the Steam gauge on it. So there's this gauge that fills up. Every time you use a card, it adds an extra counter onto this gauge. And some of the more powerful cards have a minus number on it. So basically, they'll say 3, and if you use that card, it'll take 3 of the Steam bar off.
Steam. I think they call it Steam points.
Yeah, Steam points. Yeah.
SP.
So basically, yeah, it's SP. And the interesting thing about that is that it stops you from spamming moves, and it stops you from using like your favorite things in a certain sequence and stuff like that. And also they award bonuses for well, basically your deck gets shuffled and you get so many cards in hand. And they won't necessarily be a card for every character, say. But you get an extra move for using 3 cards because you get to choose 3 of the same character. So if you choose 3 of one character, you get an extra move as well, which is a 4th. So the interesting thing about it is that you're always constantly thinking ahead, and there's always the thought that you can't just go in with your strongest moves because you might have to save them for a bit, or you might need some. The other interesting thing is that they promote buffing your characters up as well.
Yeah, so buffs and debuffs is a big part of the battle system, and I like the how strategic it can end up getting.
Yeah, and the card system is just I don't know how it works as amazing as it does, but it really does. The other thing you can do as well is you can change 2 cards in your hand in each turn. I found myself not changing 2 cards that I wanted for that turn, but to get rid of cards that I didn't want for the turn after. I don't know if you played it the same way as me, Jesse, but you always had this element of this is what I need to do right now, but I need to make sure that my next turn is also on key.
Depending on the situation, like if I had 5 blue cards and my blue character was knocked out, then I have 1 card that's too good, so I have to throw 2 cards away to try to get something I can play.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where the battle system. Overall, like the good feeling about the battle system. The only place that it falls flat is when you lose a member of your party because it makes it so difficult to recover. Like if you haven't got any recovery items in your inventory, then trying to recover from a battle with a down character is really tough.
Yeah, the money you get and the items you get for crafting are in very small supply.
Yeah.
So I spent most of my money repurchasing healing items, and I didn't get. There's a lot of cards I didn't bother getting. So there's you have to choose where you want to spend your resources. So I don't think unless you do a lot of grinding, you're not going to get everything in one playthrough.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of have to pick and choose based on the cards you get based on the strategies you want.
So overall, would you recommend this game to people?
Yes, if you're someone, I like RPGs in general anyway. So as an RPG, I was entertained, but just if you're a fan of anything previously SteamWorld, I'd say at this point don't let the genre hinder you because I'm not a fan of turn-based strategy games, and I enjoyed Heist and played through that game as well. So at least if Image and Form seems to do a job of doing new things with genres they've never played with before, and still keeping it fresh. And it's definitely worth the go.
Yeah, and for me, I praise the battle system. I think the writing was amazing. The art style's really cool. The music's equally as fitting. The only downsides for me really was that, like we said, the battle system when you lose a character can be really tough. Also, I found the boss fights like really easy compared to some of the groups of enemies, especially the groups of enemies that spam like debuffs on you and status effects. I had a harder time getting past bunches of normal baddies on the one level, and then when I got to the boss, he was so easy compared to those.
The bosses are more just damage sponges. It's just a matter of time, and you'll get to take them down. There was a few that I don't know. I think that the final boss that was like a half hour, 45-minute fight for me.
It was very long.
He has so many hit points, and you're doing so little damage, but because he heals himself constantly. But still, it was a fun fight. And
so, to sum it up, I did a full review. I don't normally plug my other things that I do, but I did a full review, and the quote from me, which we used as the driving force for the review, was, "Where art, story, music, and gameplay meet as equals, a must-have for RPG fans." And I stand by that. I think for a small RPG, like like time is valuable to me these days. So getting in a small RPG is something I want over the 100-hour RPGs. Like I don't want 100-hour RPGs. I want something small, light. And I think that this reminded me a lot of Child of Light. Like you could pick it up, play it for a bit, be perfectly content with the little bit that you played, and then get it over within a week or so.
Yeah, I didn't feel any of it was padding. Every chapter made sense in its narrative, and still fit in it under around 20 hours for me.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, the only major thing that I probably would change on it, really, if I had the opportunity to, is if a character's down, that their deck gets taken away. So at least then you have a fighting chance to recover.
Right.
But
because you still have their 8 cards in your deck, kind of holding up a third of your space.
yeah, and sometimes like you get a hand dealt because you've used the cards that you could use. You get a dealt hand of nothing but dead cards, and you can only change 2 of them, which means that you don't get a full turn as well. On the chance that you do get cards that you could use.
I think the one status effect I didn't like was Berserk.
Yes. Yeah.
So when a character is in the Berserk state, they do a random move, and then, but you cannot play any other cards of their color. So you're never going to get a 3-match that turn, no matter what. No matter what you do that round.
Yeah, so I mean that's the clever thing about it though, is just the fact that you have to be prepared for status effects, and you have to buff yourself up, debuff the enemy, and it's very rare that an RPG really drives that home, really.
Yeah, really early on, and then you could see it when I was playing Chapter 2 in my first look play. They would put a buff. The enemies put a buff on themselves that counterattacks if they get hit. So, and at the early of the game, you have 50 hit points, so you really can't afford any extra hits. So I was passing turns, waiting for their debuff to go away, or waiting for their buff to go away.
Yeah, it's really interesting the way that they've managed to balance that out. Like I really hope they follow this up with a sequel, because I think that they will perfect the thing that they've got at the minute and really polish it up.
Well, with as much hype as it's gotten, I really do feel like a sequel is pretty inevitable.
I don't think I've heard any negative reviews on this. It's been relatively all positive.
So the obvious question for those of us who have been a part of the Steam World universe for a while is, this fits in with the other games, right?
I don't really want to talk about how it does, but yeah, it does.
Just yes or no?
It does fit in.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they
confirmed something I'm looking forward to.
They confirmed that themselves before this started, before the game was released. And the only reason I don't want to talk about it is I know that the embargo's finished and it's out, but it was a part of the embargo to not talk about that. So I think that it's best that you buy the game and you see it for yourself.
Yeah.
It's got an 81 on Metacritic.
Yeah.
Well, very good.
And so from there on,
what else have you been playing?
Yeah, from there on, I've been playing a whole bunch of other games, but I'll quickly breeze past them. So, Cuphead, amazing, 2-player. Yep, get on that. Hard games, love them. Do it. Kirby's Extra Epic Yarn on the 3DS, still playing that. I will be talking about it at some point for Nintendo Dads. I've been sick for the past week, so I haven't put any video content up or anything like that. Do plan on talking about this in a quick video about 3DS and the latest games that came out. Absolutely adorable game, loving it. My daughter loves it. It's wonderful. I still haven't touched Yoshi Crafted World yet, by the way. My daughter just hogs the Switch now, so I've lost it.
She won't let you.
Yeah, that's why I'm back on the 3DS. I also went to Insomnia Gaming Festival. They didn't have anything really new there, but we did get to play some Mario games, which I own already. But the Nintendo UK versus tournaments were there. Because I took my daughter, I wasn't able to participate in them, which is my plan originally. They always put on a wonderful show, so it's a shame that there wasn't really anything else there, unfortunately, other than that. Apart from Five Nights at Freddy's VR for the the PlayStation. We want VR games now. We've got the capability to do it. And guess what? This morning for me, a night for you guys on the day before, Legend of Zelda and Mario updates hit the Labo VR, and I got a chance to play the Zelda one before we started.
Yeah, I add him to the call, and he's got a Labo to his face.
Right, where do I start with this one? It's the normal game. You're not really getting anything other than the VR capability. So, it is the game as it was. It's not the special mode. It's not like, you're seeing something completely different. It's just a normal playthrough of Breath of the Wild, except it's in VR. Now, the interesting thing about it, before I get really, wound up in what the VR does, is that you lose your HUD. So you don't have anything other than your heart counters. You don't get a mini map. You don't get all that sort of stuff. And obviously the reason is because they are very limited in pixel space.
Yeah,
when you're splitting that.
You're playing with a half a screen.
Yeah, you're playing with a 720p screen split into two, so it's very limited. Now, all that I'm going to say is, if you ever wanted Breath of the Wild on the 3DS, well, this is your opportunity basically, because that's what it ends up looking like. Which isn't really necessarily the worst thing ever, except the grass looks really strange, especially when the shadows are cast across it. So the VR works basically, it just adds that field of depth of 3D. So it is like playing a 3DS game. It's like playing Ocarina of Time on a 3DS. Is the best example that I can say. That's the way it looks. That's the way it controls. There is motion. So if you look left and right, Link will walk left and right. Same when you're gliding, shield surfing, whatever it may be. And if you look up and down, the camera looks up and down as well. And so using like bow and arrows and stuff like that, you actually aim with your eyes, which is really cool. Like, that is probably the best thing that it's added. But other than that, it basically makes Breath of the Wild a low poly VR experience, essentially. I think it's a really good update. I think it's well worth experiencing. I would not expect to get blown away by it. Also, I only played it for about 15 minutes and my arms were killing me. So I recommend sitting up at the table and prop your elbows on it, because holding your arms up in the air while sat on a sofa definitely hurts.
Or find a way to jimmy it to stay on your head.
Oh yeah, I mean they've got like these little holes and eyelets on there, so I'm sure Nintendo could release a strap for it. Which, if they do, I'll definitely be in there straight away to buy it, because I would love to play Breath of the Wild in VR with a normal controller. Because to be honest, like, for you guys who played Labo VR, you'll know this. Using the Joy-Cons against your face is not just weird because of the position that you're in, but it's weird because you feel the cardboard around you. So, I mean, an intense battle with the Lionel when you're sweating is probably going to not do very good for the cardboard.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that.
But it is an experience. Like, I'm sure the Mario one's definitely better because it's tailor-made for it, where which I haven't loaded up yet, by the way. That's why I'm not going to talk about that one too much. But it is worth it. And I mean, Labo's base kit, which is the one that I've got, because the blaster was the only one that was really appealing to me. And the main reason I wanted it was because of the Breath of the Wild and Mario experience. To buy Labo just to experience Zelda, maybe not. To experience Mario and Zelda and the blaster, that's Labo's worth it. The VR Labo is definitely worth that price, I think.
Yeah. So it's not gonna sell systems. It's not gonna sell Labo VR. Well, it might.
To be honest, with the ramblings of a new Switch now, I think the thing that I want is just a VR capable Switch. I don't care about anything else now. I think that is the way that I want it to go. I want it to have a really good screen, so you got the crispness to it, enough power to boost these games up to 60 frames, and just basically a full-on VR head strap. I think that would be phenomenal.
Well, there's some tutorials out there to go ahead and how to add a head strap to it, so you can search for those if you're in the mood. If not, then just continue to hold it up to your face. But I think that the main takeaway that I get from what you're talking about is that they don't really intend for you to play this at long clips in VR.
Oh no, and to be honest, there was a few times like my first experience of full VR was on this like simulated roller coaster where you're in a chair that rocks and tilts, and it's got wind turbines, so you feel the gush of wind. I was so sick after that, and it was in the middle of an event. It ruined the event for the rest of the event for me, and I've always been cautious of VR since. There was a time while I was gliding where I felt a little weird, like because you know you're so high and you're seeing the earth below you. But I think playing it for a long period of time wouldn't be the healthiest for you, especially because the graphics are that much lower. Like, you know, I mean, you hear a lot of people saying that Labo surprised them by how good it looks. I think it looks pretty much how I thought it would, which is a 3DS game. Like, it does look like 3DS when it's on in VR, and basically, it's a really good experience to play Zelda. That is the thing. It's a good experience to play Zelda in VR. Do not expect it to be the best version of Zelda by any means. Like, it is nowhere near as good as playing it in handheld or docked, but it is an experience.
No, and I think that gives us some really good insight into that, and probably tells us what we can expect from Mario VR, even though we haven't gotten to play it yet.
Yeah.
It's really hard to get to those updates when you've got a day where like 3 really awesome games came out on the eShop, as well as Avengers Endgame releasing, and you're sick, and then the VR updates too.
Yeah, and I mean the VR updates were literally in the middle of the night for us. So, like my only opportunity is just before the podcast, as I've just woke up. So,
all right, Jesse, why don't you talk to us for a minute about what you've been playing this week?
Yeah, speaking of low poly Zelda, I fired up my 3DS and started playing Spirit Tracks again because Nintendo, Radio Free Nintendo, every few months will do what they call a retroactive, you know, similar to what we used to do, and you two are trying to start it up again. But the game that was voted on was Spirit Tracks, so I decided to play along, and I've gotten to I finished the first dungeon so far. This weekend I'll probably have more time to sit down with it. Then another game that I'd say tried to play. I did a stream on this and had a few people in the watching. I played the first hour-ish of Final Fantasy X-2. As I said last week, I didn't want to buy it a fourth time. I've already bought it 3 times and never played it, so I decided to play it on something I had it on. So I got my PlayStation TV rigged up so I could stream it. I had to buy more hardware because it has HDMI encryption in it, so I had to buy more hardware to break it. But I had no idea what I was doing.
That's because you've never played 10.
Well, I played most of 10.
Or you've never finished it.
Does the ending of 10 really go into 10 too?
I mean, the whole point of 10-2 is because of what happens in the ending of 10.
Okay, I don't know. Maybe this didn't seem like any of it would have. None of it seemed connected. So I was, I didn't have, I was able to do the battles and figure out how to do some of the spells, but it was granting me new abilities so fast that I was focusing on different parts of the screen at the time, so I often missed the message. And even though if I did see it, I'm like, all right, is that an active ability? Is it a passive ability? How do I trigger it? It didn't explain any of that. So I don't know. It's I know a lot of people like the game, but it was probably good that I didn't play it all these years.
I think it gets a bad rap among people. Like, people are like, "Oh, it's Charlie's Angels with Final Fantasy."
Well, see, that part doesn't bother
it's this
me.
or it's that.
But
I think that it gets a bad reputation.
I tried figuring out the dress sphere thing, to figure out, its version of a job system, and it looks like I can manually tweak it and the revolve the grid based, in throughout the play, and then I think there was in the one that you start with. There's 6 cells on it, of which 3 are chosen for the 3 classes that you start with, and you get a 4th one really early in the game, and then you're able to move to an adjacent sphere square. So I had, Yuna started as don't remember what she started with, like singer, and then I could turn her into a warrior, of which Pain was a warrior. I can switch her to something else. But I didn't get a chance to dig into that. And again, I wouldn't have known which job I need to fight the boss. That's kind of one of the problems I have with it, which is why I didn't play Bravely Default very far, because I get to a boss, I get my rear handed to me, and I realize, oh, I need this job, but he's level 3. Everyone else is level 15. I'm not grinding. Goodbye.
Yeah.
So, so that was that. And then, as we mentioned, Picross S3 came out today. I picked that up. I haven't gotten far into it yet. I did try they have the same modes that S2 had, but it adds a new color Picross mode, which plays very similar to like Pick-a-Pick's colors. In fact, it gives you more status alerts that you can turn on and off if you choose, and I've more or less been ignoring them just because I'm used to not having them, and I'm going through the puzzles just fine. But it does have a good tutorial explaining how to read the clues that the board's giving you. Kind of the only thing I wish it would change was to change the colors. The color palette is L and R, and then XL and XR toggles part of the HUD on and off. I wish they were inverted, just because the XL XR is much easier to hit in your resting position, and you're switching colors all the time, whereas you're very rarely changing your HUD. So other than that, it is nothing new here that's groundbreaking. It's more of the same, just with the color added on I think 30 of the puzzles. I saw one person on Twitter saying that instead of having a new S game every 9 months, they wish they would do more DLC in previous games. Again, similar to what Pick-a-Pix does. And I think I'm kind of glad it doesn't do the DLC route, because I think it'll probably be dumping a lot more money in.
Gotcha.
Because I know I bought puzzle packs in Pick-a-Pix that I've never gotten to. Because once I get through the main block of puzzles, the DLC just turns into, if I have nothing else to play, I'll go back to it. So, but right now I've got the Sudoku from last week. I got the Picross from this week. So with doing those and trying to play Spirit Tracks, I have a lot of trying to juggle at once.
Yeah. And then lots of different genres as well. Looking at that list.
Yeah.
Just for interest of time and other stuff, I'm just going to talk about one game I've been playing over the past week, and that is Mortal Kombat 11, which is a pretty high-profile third-party release for Switch, especially the fact that we got it day and date with everyone else. I actually got to pick this up at 9 p.m. on Monday, which was, it's 12 o'clock somewhere, right? And so my GameStop column's like, yeah, you can come pick it up at 9 p.m.
If you're in the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah, you can come pick it up at 9 a.m. or 9 p.m. tonight. So I went up there. Tons and tons of people had it pre-ordered for PS4, and we're coming by to pick it up. About half of that number were Xbox One, which I was honestly surprised about. There were 7 people who had pre-ordered for Nintendo Switch. I was one of those people. I just got the regular version, but because I didn't even know about this until that day when I went in to like make sure everything was taken care of, they actually had some pre-order bonuses that were available with the game besides having Shao Kahn as a playable character. And you could either get a Mortal Kombat 10, which was like a lunchbox, or a Scorpion mask, which is kind of like one of those stretchy masks that people wear like over their nose and mouth. I've seen people use them when they go out and mow the yard or or out working in the yard. Or there was a poster, and so I opted for this. What?
Please tell me that you mow the lawn dressed as Scorpion.
I'm going to this summer. Yeah, yes. I will post a picture of it when I do. I got the Scorpion mask. So there was only like 3 tens, and I was like, I don't care about the lunchbox, the Mortal Kombat lunchbox. So picked up the game, and then came to my office for the inevitable 20 gig download. Woohoo. That had to happen. So just for reference, let's go time frame here. 9 o'clock, I picked this game up. I'm out of the store by 9:15ish. I go to my office and I go home at 11:30 p.m.
Wow.
To play the game. I was actually surprised it downloaded that fast. So
do you at least
went home that night.
Ethernet card, or are you playing it on? Was that all Wi-Fi download?
I did it all Wi-Fi download, but I was like sitting right next to the router, so I made sure just to leave it off. Let it do update in sleep mode.
Yeah, because all three of our dogs have Ethernet on them.
Went home that night, played a few just random local AI matches, and then I've spent the rest of the week doing that and playing through the story. So here's what I can say about Mortal Kombat on the Switch after my brief time with it. And I'll say brief, it's like 5 hours or less. And this is about a third of the way through the story. Number one, NetherRealm has done a great job over the last couple of Mortal Kombat releases of actually making people care about the story of a fighting game. And so this one's no exception. It's very well produced. Lots of cutscenes. Those look great on the Switch. And they're divided up into chapters that are relatively easy to jump in and out of. If you want to stop playing or you need to stop playing, you just go back through the cutscene and you fight. And each of those chapters has around 4 or 5 fights that I've played so far, and they focus on a single character. So the first chapter of the game focuses on Cassie Cage, who is Sonya Blade and Johnny Cage's child. Because there's some weird wonky time stuff going on in this game. So there's like characters who will meet.
Of course there is.
Past or future versions of themselves, or mess with the time continuum and all kinds of stuff like that. Where the game really kind of starts to, and I want to say this, it's a fantastic experience as far as the fluidity of it and the controls. It's Mortal Kombat. It needs to move fast. It needs to feel tight and visceral, and it does. But where they had to get that right, they had to sacrifice visually. And we should have known that was coming with the Switch version. It was obviously going to be downgraded anyway. Characters are very pixely. In fact, it almost looks like, I won't say PS1, but it's like if you could take a PS2 character and put them on a PS4 background, then that's what you're getting. Does that make sense? The way I described?
Kind of sounds like how the original arcade looked.
Yeah, except the backgrounds were not very complex either. They were all
simpler backgrounds, but it was obviously less resolution of a higher rendered picture.
Sure. And so you're getting that already because of the Switch's technical capabilities, and the fact that the backgrounds are they're active. There's lots of things going on in the background, as well as there are objects in the background you can use to your advantage and grab and use as weapons, or there's a couple of stages where you can throw dead bodies at people. So I mean, there's
ample
all kinds
supply,
of
I'm sure.
Yeah, well, no, like because I actually run out. Like the first character to use it, that's their bonus. Um, Also involved in this in the game are like the last ditch attacks. I'm blanking on what they are called right now, but when you get down to a certain health or lack thereof, you'll be able to press the ZR and ZL buttons at the same time and launch into this big, very powerful cinematic attack. As long as it hits the opponent, you're good. If it doesn't, it leaves you vulnerable, and then it kind of has to charge back up again. And these are kind of the X-ray attacks that you've seen over the last, couple of iterations.
Similar to what they did with the Injustice games.
Oh, it's absolutely what they did with Injustice. If you've played Injustice 2 at all, this game is basically Injustice 2 with Mortal Kombat characters and fatalities. So it's very, I mean, I think the fighting engine they have is a quality fighting engine that works well. It obviously translated speed-wise and tightness-wise, it translates over the Switch really well. But understand, if you're getting this, you are sacrificing graphical fidelity for portable Mortal Kombat. All right. And again, I'm not knocking it. Right. It's just, it is what it is.
Know what you're getting into. You're playing on a 420p versus a 4K display if you go somewhere else.
Yeah. And there's not a bump in resolution. There's not a bump in performance by docking it. Now, I have heard that there's a feature in the settings where all of your matches are recorded. And I've heard about some stability and kind of fluidity upgrade if you turn that off, but it didn't really affect the graphical fidelity any. Now, my gripes about this game don't actually have to do with the Nintendo Switch version at all. It's just the way it's developed. It's always online, which sucks big time for somebody like me, who has, very little online capability at home. So much so that anytime you want to play any of the classic towers or you want to bank rewards from AI matches or anything like that, it has to connect to the internet to do that every time. Every time. And if you choose to make it not connect to the internet, it will not allow you to save progress through towers, and it will not give you any rewards at all, which sucks. And you add that to the fact that the game is extremely, extremely grindy about giving you one of 4 different types of currency that are in the game.
Oh.
There's not just coins. There's soul powder, and there's coins, and there's heart gems, and there's this and that. I don't even know all of them. But I did read today, and this is one thing that just makes you shake your head, that there are unlockable items in the game, but you can only unlock them with a certain type of currency that you get, right? You can't unlock any of the like story items or anything like that. Everything that's being sold is just costumes and easy fatalities and different stuff like that, which I've been playing Mortal Kombat for a long time, even like started on it back in the arcade when it first came out. And the move set for this game is super simple. There's not a lot of complexity to it. Now, in the combo system, there is, but as far as pulling off special moves and fatalities, to me, it's not all that easy or not all that hard. So I don't know why you need easy fatalities. But I read an article, I think this was on Kotaku today, that to buy everything that will be offered for Mortal Kombat 11 by the time it rotates through the store would cost you $6,440.
Oy. That's crazy.
And guys, we know, it's inevitable. We don't even need to get into the discussion or fight about it or try to fight it, that monetization is prevalent in games. But I will say this. The people who called out EA about Star Wars Battlefront and loot boxes and Overwatch and all kinds of other games, if they don't call out NetherRealm and Warner Brothers and others about this crap, it's hypocritical. Because there's no reason that extras in a game should cost somebody almost $65,000 or $6,500. I'm sorry. It just makes no sense. I mean, and for an otherwise well-made game, it kind of puts a damper on a few things there for me. So I mean, I do recommend it if you want portable Mortal Kombat. Even if you don't, you want to buy it on the Xbox One or PS4, I recommend it because it's a good fighting game. But this overhyped in-game purchase monetization has got to stop. And it's going to stop when we stop buying 400 costumes for Katana because we want to see her in another color or whatever. It just doesn't, it's not a good practice, and it makes the industry suck. Sorry. That's my rant for the night. But otherwise, I think the game's fun. I think if you like Mortal Kombat, you're going to be right at home. Don't expect anything groundbreaking or earth-shattering or mind-blowing. It's Mortal Kombat. It's on the Switch, and it's good on the Switch.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so that's what I've been playing.
Yeah, I tried playing, I think, like 3 Mortal Kombats ago, and I just didn't like playing it on the normal controller because I'm used to playing it on an arcade stick because I used to play 1 and 2 in the arcades competitively, and I was actually pretty decent at it. But and I think I've said this before on the show before, but I don't want to spend $150 on a joystick that I'm only going to use on one game.
Yeah,
that I'm going to end up sucking at anyway, so I don't play it much, and then I have no need for this $150 joystick.
Yeah. I loved Mortal Kombat 2 in the arcade. You know what, man? Muscle memory is fantastic. Because we booted up the SNES Classic the other night and played some Mortal Kombat 2, me and my son, and man, I still got it with Reptile. Sorry. I'll take on anybody.
I actually fired up Mortal Kombat on my machine in the corner here, and I forgot everything I had. I learned.
I love 1 and 2.
That's been like 25 years almost.
Three is where they try to start getting really complicated with it, and
that's
really,
where I stopped playing.
Yeah, that for me is my limit. Well, guys, that is what we've been playing, and we don't have anything in the community spotlight tonight, so we're just going to go ahead and wrap up episode 227 of Nintendo Dads. We want to thank you for hanging out with us, everybody over on YouTube, watching along live as we recorded this, and for those of you who download weekly, thank you so much for being fans and sponsors of the show, especially if you're over in Patreon as well. What we want you to do this week, though, if you have not gone over and left us a 5-star review or subscribe to us on iTunes, if you're just getting it downloaded every week or whatever, go over and do that, would you? Give us the review, give us a 5-star rating, maybe type a comment or two. That helps people find us, and it helps get us lifted up on the rankings so other people can listen to Nintendo Dads. But we want to say right now a huge thanks to our Patreon producers, Chris Mears, John Blanco, Dave Ernsberger, and Timothy Off for backing us at the $30 level and being our producers. Whoop, whoop. You guys are awesome. Also, we're now available on Spotify, thanks to Jesse's hard work. So going over there, if you are listening to podcasts there, but you can still get us on Google Play and the iTunes or Apple Podcasts as well. And you can head over to patreon.com/Nintendo Dads again to support us. Follow us on our social media at Nintendo Dads. Email us at nintendodads@gmail.com. You can watch us on Twitch or YouTube by searching for Nintendo Dads, or call in and leave a voicemail, 929-25-NDADS. That's 929-256-3237. And if you want some sweet merchandise, tiny.cc/Nintendo Dads Store has got your hookup. That's all lowercase. Holla if you hear me. For me, for Thor, for Iron Man, we're Nintendo Dads. Thanks for listening to this episode 227. See you around.
Ciao.
Thank you for listening to Nintendo Dads.
Wobble Puffet? Wobble Buffet?
What noise does Thor make?